I don't have any friends, and I realized it by spending time with my boyfriend. Me and my boyfriend have been together for almost 2 years now, and I'm very happy about our relationship. But since I met him, I've had a new perspective on life and human relationship in general, and I realized that I don't have any friends. For context, I'm an extrovert woman who doesn't have any problems meeting/talking to people. When I met my boyfriend, I was surrounded by many different people. I had a best friend, friends from college, people I met in events. Those were people that I spent the most time with. I had a lot of people in my life. Those friends met his friends, and they weren't a great match. I mean, we were in the more extravagant side and they were a different speed, which is okay. Not everyone needed to be friends. The important was that we were getting along and that me and my boyfriend were good together. Over time, I left some of those friends behind. One of them, I needed some space when I was going through mental issues, and she wasn't the best support. I realized that I'm more of the listener friend, the therapist friend, which I love tbh, but to certain points. The downside is that people only called me to vent, and I didn't have the space and the safety to talk about myself. I let go of my best friend a few months ago, without real explanations, because it would have been cruel to say that I found her superficial, egocentric, and I didn't align with her values anymore. I didn't feel like she was my best friend, but I was definitely hers. I also realized with my boyfriend what friendship is supposed to look like. His friends are there for each other, they listen, they laugh, and they only want what's best for him. That's how I realized that most friends I had didn't respect my boundaries. I felt rejected around them. Some stopped inviting me to gatherings if I wasn't the one to reach out, and some abandoned me on my birthday/on an event to see a guy. My lover's friends made me realize that I needed real friends to surround me. Today, I feel completely alone. I have a few friends here and there, but no one really close to me. I'm a little bit on guard when I meet people now. I'm scared of getting rejected, but I'm also scared to open up and realize that I made a mistake by letting them into my life. I came to accept my lonely life until college start again, but I casually suffer from FOMO from time to time. I work for the summer and my colleagues are my age and are really great, but I'm scared to get close, or get rejected if I want to see them outside of work. I don't struggle with making friends, I struggle with maintaining a friendship. Is it weird to not have any close friends at my age? I'm only 21 lol. Should I try meeting other people? How can I sense good friends? Comment. There are different degrees of friendship, and I think it's okay to just focus on figuring out who you maybe want to get to know a little better outside of work or school or wherever you're meeting people right now. You don't have to include them in everything once you've invited them out once, or jump straight to deep confidences, especially if you realize there's a risk of you getting sucked into playing therapist before you've spent enough time with someone to know whether they're capable of listening when you need it. And if they aren't interested in getting close to you, that's sad, but it'll be okay. You take what it is that drew you to them, and you keep an eye out for it in your new acquaintances. But you can't get to know people at all if you don't try, so see if anyone who's on your "this person seems neat" list wants to do a thing with you, and go from there. When you're younger, people tend to have friends of proximity. You have a class together, you live in the same dorm, you are neighbors, etc. These are usually people you'd likely never actually be friends with otherwise, and once that proximity is gone, the friendships fade. When you're an adult, you tend to not have a bestie that you do everything with. Rather, you cultivate a family of friends where there are different people for different things. For example, I have a friend I do dinner with once a month as we are foodies. I have a friend I do theater/musicals with. I have some friends via my hobbies and some via my volunteer work. No one person fills all the roles for me. My closest friend of 20 years and I haven't lived in the same place that whole time. But she's someone I can totally count on in an emergency. Like when I was stuck in Europe, she drove an hour each way to get my dog and keep him till my flight was back on track. When I had a bad accident, She was with me at the hospital. But we don't see each other every week or talk every day. We count on each other and have a blast together, but it's not like being in college where you are together all the time. I dunno. You have to make the investment but also have good boundaries so you don't get used. When I was about your age, I had a girl who was the center of my world, her friends, and 2 of my middle/high school friends. Lost the girl and that social group, one buddy moved across the country, and I was left with one friend. I chose and worked at being a volunteer, made some friends through that, and started a weekly cooking/poker game/Bulls 6 tea session with them, playing the host and making room at the table to talk about how the week had been. It worked. 10 years of that and I had to move to a new city, but they are still my social circle and we still do things online once or twice a week. One idea you could try is setting up a weekly watch party for a lesser-known TV show, like Burn Notice, The Good Place, or whatever, where you and your friends gather, and encourage them to invite other people to come, maybe with a snack. Gaining friends as you age is hard, you have to work at it, and there may be lapses, but if you are the person with a welcoming smile, decent food, and sincere interest in others, you will probably find you have people who want to be around. Good luck. Next story 2. My boyfriend hiding his participation in a podcast from me. My boyfriend of 6 years has been considering changing careers, as AI is threatening his profession, recently. As a part of that, he asked me to read his resume and see if I had any comments or ideas for how to improve it. I'm in a similar trade as he is, but different professions. We were both at home, and he emailed it from his laptop to mine. Since it was a PDF file, I took a couple of screenshots to mark out sections I thought could be improved or where I wanted to comment. I had only read for like 5 minutes when he suddenly rushed over from the other room, and asked me if I had checked my email. I said yeah, I'm just looking over your resume draft now, and pointed to my screen. He seemed flustered, and explained that this was the wrong version, that I need to check my email again. I did, and sure enough, in the same email thread he had sent me another version of the same PDF, just a few minutes after the first email. He seemed really invested in that I need to open this version instead. I was like, sure, are there any big differences? No, he said, just minor things. I asked why he seemed so stressed out or something like that, don't remember the exact wording I used, and he replied that he was just anxious that I get the correct version. Fine, I can get a bit nervous when showing people something I've written, too, I get it. But the weird thing was, he insisted I deleted the other, wrong resume. As in, he stood by my laptop watching as I did, even at one point trying to take control of the mouse from me to verify it was also deleted from my email's recycle bin. This seemed really off, and not like something he'd normally do. We normally don't give a shit about what the other person does on their computer, online, etc., so again, I asked why this was so important, and again he just reiterated that he was nervous about me seeing his stupid errors. When he returned to his laptop, having really verified I deleted the earlier draft, I was a bit curious, so I looked over the screenshots I had taken and compared them to the newer version of the resume, just to see what the big deal was. I know, not really okay, but I was perplexed by how anxious he seemed. It's not like him. Anyway, I couldn't find anything at first, and I hadn't gone through the entire resume, but at the bottom of the last screenshot I had taken, under a headline listing other achievements or similar, I could see the top half of a text that seemed to say podcast appearance. Later that night, he asked me if I had seen any errors in the earlier version of his resume, and I said I hadn't. He asked if I'd seen anything else, or something like that, again I don't remember the exact words, and I was like what, and he changed the topic or seemed to brush over it. The next day, I felt a bit bad about snooping, looking at something he clearly didn't want me to see, so I deleted the screenshots. Now, my boyfriend works in the media business, kind of, and I know he listens to podcasts, mostly humor / left-wing podcasts, Chapo Trap House and C*M Town. I don't really listen to podcasts myself, but he plays them from his phone speaker sometimes when he showers or cooks, and often talk to me about various topics brought up on the shows. I know / can guess that he would like to be on a podcast himself, because it's clear that he admires these guys, but his work has nothing to do with radio or anything near a podcast, and he's never expressed to me any ambition to go that direction, professionally or privately. I'm 100% sure he'd tell me if anything like that would come up. We talk openly about our ambitions, projects, things we do at work or with friends. Or so I thought. There have been a few other weird things lately, too. We don't normally check in with each other throughout the day, but over the last months or so there have been a couple of nights when I've tried to reach him, call him on his cell, and he hasn't responded at all, like he just let it ring. One night in particular, he worked till 5 p.m. or so according to his schedule, but wasn't home yet by 9 p.m. I was obviously wondering where he were, and sent him a text. Delivered, but no response. So I called, and he didn't pick up. He finally got home at 10 or so, looking completely normal, and when I, who had gotten a bit upset by then and had almost called his mom, asked where he were, he told me he had to work late, and that his phone had ran out of battery and died. He does work late sometimes, but not normally unplanned, and afterward I started thinking about how it did ring, as if signals were reaching the phone, not sure of the wording in English here, whereas if his phone would be dead, it would more likely go straight to voicemail. I didn't think much about that night until now. There are other minor things he's done over the last few months that also seem weird to me now, but I don't know if I'm imagining things. I obviously only have myself to blame for this, having snooped. After that, it's like I've gone a bit crazy starting to think about what other things he's hiding from me. Did my boyfriend appear on a podcast without telling me? Why would he hide it from me? And how do I proceed? The obvious thing would be to just tell him that I happened to see the podcast thing on his resume, but then I'd have to cop to not having been truthful when he asked if I saw anything out of the ordinary there. Comment. Google his name plus podcast and see what pops. That'll likely tell you why he's hiding this from you. Is podcast code for something? Why would it be bad to be on a podcast? He's definitely said some wild shit on a podcast that he doesn't want you to find, especially if he in any way finds Nick Mullen funny LMAO. I've known people who hide creative endeavors from their close friends until they think it's good enough, art, stand-up, music. He could have an offensive persona though, too.